Today I'm going to share a light whole grain or wholemeal spelt bread with oats. It's so light, it just kind of melts in your mouth. It's probably one of the lightest wholemeal spelt bread recipes I've ever done. My name's Sue and this is Suemareep and I love baking with spelt flour. And it's been a while since I shared a new recipe. This one I've been working on for a while. I'm combining gluten-free oats with a sweetener and some wholemeal spelt flour to get this super light bread with a really fine crust. So let's get started. So I'm going to use dry yeast today and we've just got room temperature water. So in my stand mixer I'm going to add 300 grams of the water. I'm just going to leave a bit and add it later. So I've just left a little bit in my jug. And I've got 7 grams or 2.5 teaspoons of dried yeast. And into that I'm going to add, I think it's, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. And you can add honey if vegan's not important, or another kind of liquid sweetener. Or if you don't have a liquid sweetener in the house, you can add, like brown sugar or white sugar. I lost my words. And into that I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of olive oil. So this is all the liquids we're doing. And the olive oil can be replaced by another neutral oil. The olive oil just gives it moisture because we're not adding any dairy to this recipe today, not made with milk. So the olive oil keeps the moisture into the bread. In here I've got fine gluten-free oats, and that's 80 grams or 3/4 of a UK or Australian cup. Just going to whisk them together. So that's step 1. And what I like to do is just to sit that for 5 minutes, just so the oats get to soak into the liquid, and that makes the bread even more moist. So I'll set my timer for 5 minutes and then we'll do the next step. So the oats are nice and soaked now. Now it's time to do the next step. So we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. That's just fine salt. You can add a little bit more if you like. And in my bowl here I've got my 420 grams of wholemeal or whole grain spelt flour. Here in Sweden it's called fullkorn dinkel meal, and that's 2 3/4 UK cups. I'm just going to mix this around for about a minute or 2 until it gets to be a shaggy dough. Now see how that's looking a little bit dry? I'm going to add the rest of that water. And now with spelt flour, you don't need or require to knead it for as long. So we just knead it until the bowl looks clean. It's usually about 4 to 5 minutes. I'm just going to bump the speed up now to medium. I'm going to set my time for 3 minutes and then check it. I just realised I forgot one ingredient that I like to add. It's my flax, ground flax. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of that. You can leave it out, but I like adding extra flax and fibre where I can. So I'll pop that back on. Flax is also called linseed in some countries, and you can get 2 colours. This is like the brown one. I grind it myself and then store it in the fridge. Now my bowl is really clean and it's created this really nice ball. So I'm going to get my dough out. I'm just going to wet my hands a little. So one thing I like to do, I like to transfer it to another glass bowl. So I like to oil that bowl a little bit. And I'll just mix that oil around with my wet hands, which I should have done before. Then grab your dough out. It's quite a sticky dough, but I love that it's sticky because that will help it keep moist when we bake it. Now I cover it with this plastic cover, which sometimes when I have wet hands I can't put on. And then I just put another cover on tea towel. I'm going to rest that for about 45 to 60 minutes till it doubles in size. While you're waiting for the dough to rise, you can prepare your tin. I'm using a loaf tin, and what I like to do is you can oil it or butter it But I like to oil it and add a little bit of paper because I find it easier just to lift out with the paper. So I just brush, this is just, I think, veg oil around the tin. And then I cut my baking paper in half and I just slide it in so it's long on the sides. And I often clip the sides down with bulldog clips, which I'll just grab out. So then when I get it out of the oven, I just lift it up by that and lift the bread out. So that's all ready for when we want to shape the bread. It's just gone 45 minutes and my dough is really raised and doubled in size. So I'm going to get it out and do a quick kind of fold technique and then place it into my tin. So I'm just adding rice flour to my bench. And I probably should zoom you in so you can see a close-up of what I'm doing. I'm a one-man person. I don't have anyone to help me. I do all the editing, filming, recipe development myself. So I'm just going to change the camera angle. So we're just going to add the flour to that. And all I do is I flatten it gently with my hands. Then I fold over the sides. Then I roll it to myself into kind of a loaf shape. And it's quite tight. And I pop the seam on the bottom. And all I do is grab my tin, place it in there. Kind of flatten it down a little bit, but not too much, just to keep a nice shape. Then I'll just cover it back with this tea towel and rest it for another 45 minutes. I don't have any windows open or anything, so it's nice and draft-free. We have about 10 minutes on rising or proving the bread. I'm going to switch my oven on to 200 degrees C with a fan, and as usual I'll pop some other temperatures above. So it's time to start baking the bread. Look at that. It's grown in the tin and ready to bake. And what I like to do is I like to brush it with a little bit of water just to give it some moisture on the top of the bread. And then I have a tablespoon of the oats, just to sprinkle on top, just to add a little bit of decoration. And I just need to pat them down so they don't jump off, and I've just spilt them everywhere. That's okay. Now I'm going to place this in my oven and cook it or bake it for 40 minutes. At the bottom of my oven, I'm going to add this little ramekin of water just to help keep the steam. That's my little tip to ensure a really nice moist bread and a thin, crusty edge. I've just removed my bread from the oven and it smells fantastic. Now, just a little point to note that the whole grain bread with the oats doesn't rise as fluffy as a white spelt loaf. So now we'll just lift it out. And a good way to test if it's done is to tap the bottom, and if it sounds hollow, then you know your bread's cooked. And what I like to do is, I like to remove it from the tin about 5 minutes after it's baked. And then if I cover it with a cloth, that ensures that my crust will be nice and soft. I don't like a really super crunchy crust. I like it a little bit more soft. I'll come back after it's completely cooled and cut it. That might take about an hour, 1 hour to 2 hours. So the bread is nice and cool now, and it's time to slice into it. And I'll pop photos up above of some close-up shots. And we like eating this for breakfast. We toast it. But look at that. It's very light inside and it's got this really thin crust. It's not as puffy and high as some of my other loaves. That's because I've got the oats in there and the whole grain flour. It kind of restricts how much it rises, if that makes sense. So thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed my spelt oat bread today. I need 10 volunteers to help me with a spelt bread baking project. I'll pop a link below and you can email me if you're interested, and then you can find out some more information. Stick around because I'll pop some video links to some other spelt bread recipes that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up and share it with a friend. See you next time. Bye.